do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How you going? Hope you're having a bloody good sort of a, what day is it? Wednesday, I think. And struggling through it, we do in a rainy kind of way today. I don't mind the rain so much. It's not that it's cold, although it's colder than we would expect for this time of year, certainly. Weather has been really weird. Very strange summer for us in Queensland, and it's been very weird for, well, weather patterns right across Australia. And it's affecting every state in different ways, and parts of different states in different ways as well. South Australia is a classic example. I grew up in the southwest of Victoria and understand what pastoral grazing is all about, and dairy farming and spud farming and all that kind of stuff. I also know that in living memory, I doubt between southwest Victoria and the southeast of South Australia, anybody's ever seen a dead blade of grass. It's always beautiful and green, but that isn't the way in many other parts of other states, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, but at the moment, particularly South Australia, where there is quite a crisis happening. And it was brought to my attention the other day. If you're a follower of Tim's Truth, you'll know all about this. And to get the man on himself to explain it in a little more detail, I bring Tim Dwyer on, but we'll also introduce Linda from Hay Runners Australia. Hello, both of you. Thank you for joining me tonight on The Voice of Freedom. Tim, I might get you to kick me off. What's going on in South Australia? How is it that farmers can't feed their own stock? And, you know, how can we help?
All righty. Thank you, Carl. Look, before I get onto that, I just noticed you had a little blurb up there, how Elbo's terrified of all these, what is there, 1 million extra guns running around Australia somewhere.
I've got to back up to that. That's actually a graphic from Topher Field, actually.
Yeah, Topher's thing is very good. Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to put that up a little bit later, but you can see there, 1 million illegal guns plus 1 million registered guns equals 5 million guns in Australia. In 2023, there were 27 murders involving guns, but there's 25 million people responsible for a total of 247 murders, which makes Australians without guns nearly twice as likely to kill someone compared to Australians with a gun, including the illegal guns. So if we just issue every Australian with a gun, then we'll see the murder rate halve.
I thought that was good. No, that's good. But I don't know what it is in the other states, but here in South Australia, the police force, and that's what they are, a force,
no longer
none of the individual police have a license for the firearm they carry on their hip. The license is held by the corporation of the South Australian Police Force, but the police themselves don't hold an individual license. Isn't that interesting? The company holds the license.
I'm wondering if that's not the same in Queensland now that you mention it, because obviously there are a lot of police who privately shoot as well.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Anyway.
What an interesting question. I will pose that. So
just a thought. Yeah. Anyway, back to matters at hand.
Sure.
Important things, right? As you alluded to, South Australia is dry. I mean, dry as dry as dry. We had a bit of a shower of rain through here last week, enough to settle the dust. Right up in the North Country, in the far North Country, there was some water running down the roads or running down a few of the rivers. But where it counts, it's dry. We have not really had rain here since November.
Oh, wow.
So it's dry. And through friends of mine, the Hicks family, and Anne-Marie Hicks does the photography called Down the White Line. She's a truck photographer, and she does a lot of work for the hay runners, and she takes wonderful photos for the hay runners trucks and stuff like that when they get here. Now, it was brought to my attention the other week that the hay runners were having all manner of difficulty getting funding from the South Australian government to bring in an enormous amount of fodder for the stock. Yeah. Now, 200 trucks, I think, Linda, is that about right?
Yes, that's correct, Tim.
And somewhere near 8,000 bales, the big round bales, not the square bales, right? Now, or some of them will be square bales, but they'll be the big square bales. And so, anyway, I got on to the Minister for Agriculture and Primary Industry and asked them why they weren't providing the funds, because it was made known to me that the South Australian government had $20 million made available in the funding for drought relief for the farmers. Of that $20 million, $4 million has already been spent, which now leaves them with $16 million. And when I spoke to the minister, Scrivens, she said that they had already paid the Aussie hay runners X amount of dollars, which they did, and they bought huge truckloads of hay into the state, and it was a bloody welcome thing, I can tell you. Oh, yeah. And she said, but we're also assisting other people who also bring hay in. I said, yes, but they're bringing 1s and 2s and 3s and 4 trucks full of hay, which, you know, it's like the boy peeing in the ocean, you know, like it's not going to make much difference. Yeah. And I said, but, you know, there's 200 truckloads waiting to come across. Anyway, they've got their little script when people ring up and they read their script out to them to sort of send them off on a tangent. So then I got on to 5AA, the local radio station here, and it's a talkback show in the morning, and I asked the question. And they confirmed that, yes, they were aware of the fact that the government holds $16 million for drought relief, and the Aussie hay runners were asking for as close to $2 million as they could get to cover. Because you've got to understand, 200 trucks that would be doing probably a minimum of an 1,800K round trip are going to burn a bit of fuel. The drivers need food, right? So anyway, we had this chat, and it was my assumption on the radio that is it that the Labor Party of South Australia want the farmers to go broke so as they can sell the land cheap to their Chinese communist mates, or do they want the farmers off the land so they can hand it all back over to the land councils, the Aboriginal Land Council, right? Yep. And the guy on the radio said, well, that's a couple of good points. Now, the next day we got a couple of the mayors to ring in from up in that country. They didn't get much of a hearing at all. We've done all manner of little bits and pieces, ringing different people. There were some farmers that went down to the Premier's office and protested outside. That didn't get anywhere. But so it was interesting, Carl. On Monday, I was up at Laura, up in the mid-north. Yep. And we had a day up there with some other people. The Billboard Battalion and others were there. And so happens, you wouldn't believe it, the Governor of South Australia was also up there, and she was having lunch at the pub that night. Well, we thought we better stay and having dinner, sorry. We thought we better stay back and have dinner too.
Absolutely. Did you get
so anyway, yeah, so I did get an audience with the Governor.
Very good.
And that was a good start. And I told her, I asked if she could do anything. She said, well, I can't interfere with legislation or anything like that. I said, I understand that. I said, but here we've got a situation where there will be farmers that won't be able to handle this anymore. And unfortunately, there will be suicides. I said, and under the government that you sit above, I said, all we ask is for the Minister for Agriculture and the Premier to at least demonstrate some small modicum of humanity. So as some poor kid doesn't come home from school and see Dad with his head blown off.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, she said, this is serious, isn't it? I said, it's beyond serious. She said, I'll speak to the Parliament. I said, well, she said, I'm meeting them on Thursday. I said, well, when you do, could you please tell them that this is a very, very passionate cry for help? And here's what I thought was interesting. She extended her hand out to shake my hand. She shook my hand and she said, and she put a finger up and she said, I will put this to their attention.
Awesome.
So what comes of that, who knows? But we've got other things on the go as well. So I'm going to hand over to Linda now for a bit, and Linda can tell you the story from the get-go.
Well, Linda, I'm keen to learn a little bit about how it all works. So, Hay Runners, as far as I'm aware, while being an organisation, doesn't own 200 trucks. And I just did the maths here before. So let's say 200 trucks need $3,500 worth of fuel to complete the journey from wherever they're coming from, to load, to get to South Australia and to get home again. And I don't know if that's a fair figure, but I'm guessing it's, not unreasonable to think. So that comes to $700,000. Then if you gave every one of the trucks $1,000 for miscellaneous stuff, oils, lubricants, tire, like you blow a tire on one of those things, it's $1,000. So, it's a miscellaneous fee. So there's another $200,000. We're up to $900,000.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay for the hay that's being picked up. So I don't know what the hay price is, but I imagine that it is a market and availability, supply and demand kind of thing. So I'm sure you can bring us up to that. But one of the things that intrigued me with what Tim was saying was that it seems like you guys are proactive in trying to get to government for funding. How do you find out where you are required?
Well, basically, Carl, what happens is I have farmers ringing me. How it all actually started was the Mid-Murray Mayor, Simone Bailey, sent me a very, very heartfelt message about her community and the way they were suffering with farmers just devastated by drought. Now, we hadn't really done drought before. We'd sort of done fires, flood, severe storms and that. And this was all new to me. Anyway, as it went on and Simone sort of put the word out, we put together a run of 36 trucks. So before I knew it, and basically the way I look at things, Tim, is it's no use going and giving someone 10 round bales of hay that's got 1,000 plus sheep. That's not even a Band-Aid, you know what I mean? You need to give them the load to get them through. People are very, they know to feed out carefully. So we started counting it up and, we decided that, right, we give these people a thing. Now, when we were away on the trip, I was then getting more and more and more phone calls. So that's when we put a letter into government. They then asked Aussie Hay Runners to help them work out how to do funding to get hay up to the people. So we put together a package with them. So it covered everything with the trucks. That's our main concern, that the trucks are covered, because if something goes wrong, you've got to have money there to fix it. You know what I mean? Because this is all voluntary. So everything we do. But how we work, we are a project of the biggest rural Lions Club in Victoria, which is the Hayfield Lions Club. Now, when people see us coming along, and you can hop on our Facebook page and have a look at all the convoys and the people, we get lots and lots of donations just through the general public, other Lions clubs, and, there are a few companies that throw in. So because we don't do a lot of, like fundraising and stuff like that, our funds sort of just sit there till we see something that we've got to go and, help. So hence run number 2 was born, but we got fuel subsidy for it. When we run New South Wales, we do get a fuel subsidy. All the
Right.
boys, they take what they need and they donate some back into the Lions Club. So that then builds up our little kitty. Hence, 106 truckloads of hay was paid for. We got subsidy for that lot of trucks that went up, and we had a hell of a lot of happy farmers. Like, the messages we got back was unbelievable. So whilst I was away on this trip, my phone never stopped. Now, I was driving one of the semis, so I could only answer so many calls. After a while, it just got, it went out of control.
Sure.
So I had, by the time I got home to my place in Victoria, I had over 100 phone calls to answer back.
Wow.
Which I did. So listening to it all, it was people that had not received anything. They had not a bale of hay given to them. Anyway, so we decided, now this was just off the top of my head while I was out loading again for the next lot of hay. We had to move some hay. And I said to our reconstruct girl, I said, can we just put in another, see if they'll give us another lot of funding. Now, at this stage, I had 200 farmers. And I said, without putting it all together as I had the first and second ones, let's just put in maximum Ks, fully loaded trucks. Now, if it worked out at 200 loads, but then again, we might only be going sort of like, say, out of Victoria to Mount Barker or somewhere like that. So it's only 800 Ks. Even though we've done maximum Ks, that then leaves room for another farmer to be helped because you're only using half those Ks. So it would have been, at the end of the day, around the 245 truckloads. Because now that I've had a chance to go through with everyone, they're not all maximum Ks. It's just that I hadn't had the chance, but because I was so desperate to try and help these farmers, and these people need help now, not tomorrow, not next week. They need it now. They're in a very, very bad way. And until you've been out there and seen what these people are going through, it is heartbreaking. Like, we were out at Sedan and there was 3 of us girls out there with the boys, and the joke around the dinner table that night was how young we all looked because we got a free face peel from all the sand that we got belted to death with, So we all look 10 years younger, but, and this is what the sheep are standing on nothing. There is nothing. It's just this dirt, sand, whatever you want to call it. The farmers are just, if it hasn't been through frost getting their crops, water, and not being able to put anything in, and what did come up, they couldn't even get grain off, ready for next year's sort of, to be able to sow that in. And, they had to feed that off to the sheep. Well, that didn't last them very long.
So that's sort of a question I have, I guess. Given you can bring 200 loads and let's call it 8,000 bales, and it's not just hay that you can bring because there are sheep pellets that you were mentioning. You get a great deal of help from a company with. So do you want to mention that company? Because this is a company that people can buy all sorts of things, dog food, cat food, well, I don't know, cat food, but certainly everything for the property from. So and they really do help hay runners out. You want to give them a bit of a mention?
Yeah, I do. So a huge shout out. It was actually Anne-Marie from Down the White Line. She got us onto them. They, on our last run that we did, they donated a full pallet load of dog kibble. So every truck took a bag of dog food with them, which was absolutely, that people were just so rapt. They couldn't stop thanking us. And Lorkie Mills, who are in South Australia, they've also given us an absolutely fabulous price to buy sheep pellets. So be it that, we can all go up there loaded, and we can certainly send a few trucks back and, load pellets and get them out to the people as well.
So how does this work then? If you've got sheep pellets, let's say, and pallets of them in South Australia, and you've got your hay presumably somewhere in Victoria. Is that all in one place, or have you got access to?
No, so our hay, so down here in Victoria, we haven't had the best year either with hay. And it just seems, everybody goes everywhere to get it. So a lot of our hay is coming from Victoria, but there's a lot coming from New South Wales as well. We're sort of, because everybody's been in the rush for, fodder for winter, it's getting harder to get the closer stuff. You're now pushed out sort of in the places that nobody really wants to go. That's where we're going to pick up hay. But in saying that, it's all very good quality fodder. A lot of it's in sheds and stuff like that. So basically for us, it's easier just to send, X amount of trucks there. They pick that up. They've got their drops and they go direct farmer drops to South Australia.
Right. Okay. And yeah, I guess you can figure out the plot for the drivers to take much easier that way, depending on which way they're coming into or out of the state, so to speak. So
yeah, exactly.
It must be a wonderful thing. I've seen some of your pictures and some of your videos, but you're getting the reaction of others as they're coming into town, the families, or coming into the onto the farm. When you, fully loaded, pull onto a property that the family at their wits' end, the husband and wife are struggling, and you look at the animals that you see as you're driving down their 2 kilometre long dirt driveway that's blowing away in front of you, what sort of feeling do you get?
I just, my heart melts. It absolutely, it breaks for them. And, they must be watching for us to come, because I did 3 deliveries and they were outside, like they were there. They must have been listening for the truck to come up the road. And, it's all, you jump out of the truck, they'll say, look, where would you like it? Oh, look, can we just go over there? You back it in. They're just there to hug you. They hug you. They thank you. The kids are there. They help you unstrap it. Everything's put away. And then next thing you're doing a farm tour with them, or you're inside, with them, having a lovely cuppa or a cold drink or whatever it may be. And just, I think having that fresh person there to talk to, not that you can go and, say to them it's going to rain tomorrow or whatever, but I think just, after they've been over and hugged their hay and kids are running along the top of it, and Dad, we can take one out on the tractor, and the kids are just buzzing to get out there and feed one out. It's look, I got some big burly truck drivers that come with me, and we've been at different places having dinner. We try and support small pubs and that on the way home as well, with a feed. And, I always say, if 60 of us go there and they've got a couple of young girls, it gives them an extra, few hours pay in their pocket, if we're there supporting. But just going back to the farmers, those people are so salt of the earth. They are just the absolute salt of the earth, good, honest people. And when you hear what's going on, and they have nowhere else to turn. No. And that's where, you just say to them, look, I'm not your solution. I'm here to give you a hand up. But, this is where, we've got to keep helping these people. This is nothing they've done. This is no fault of theirs.
No, God, no. I have a very serious question for you, and you sort of alluded to them before, that the people on the land are just such fabulous people, and some of them are fabulous cooks. Now, if my memory serves, you usually get one of 3 choices on a farm: lamingtons, you might get lucky with vanilla slice, or you might get a sponge cake. What do you most often get offered up, and what's your favourite?
Righto. First thing I love is a really good cup of tea, strong cup of tea, which they make the best strong cup of tea. And it's always in a teapot. That's the bomb. I quite often get banana bread.
Oh, wow.
And slathered with butter. Now, you can't go past that.
Yeah, very nice.
But But we've got one of our boys, and I will say his name. His name's Don Sofra, and he's an absolute legend. Wherever Don goes, and I said to him, on the next ones, I'm going with you, Don, because he gets, what do they call them? Roulards, like a pavlova roulade.
Oh,
He gets
yes.
fresh cheesecakes and little ribbon sandwiches and takes photos of it, eating it, and sends it to us all.
If that's not an incentive to join your truck into the convoy, I don't know what is.
No, we just follow Don Sofra. That's what we do because we know he's in for a good feed.
So, obviously, access to 200 trucks. Your network is spread pretty far, obviously up the East Coast, I'm imagining. So does that mean that you can draw from different areas to help? I mean, if there are people in far north Queensland that have access, I can't imagine they would, that are able to access hay and bring that down through the north rather than come down to Victoria and across. Or does your network simply extend to, well, here's where the hay is, you've got to get here to help? And do you need more help with that? And I guess before we can get the help to you, we've got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. So how can we pressure the South Australian government to do the right bloody thing? I don't understand why this is so hard to understand. It's not only is it about the mental health aspects of the families on the property, but it's also about providing enough sustenance or enough supply into our food chain. And Tim, I'm sure you've got a lot to say about that.
Thanks, Carl. Look, what we did is we had quite a few people ring the Premier's office and the Minister for Primary Industries office here in South Australia and go, look, what the hell? Where's the money? Why are you doing this? You've got the money, feed the farmers. And they've got, like I said, they've got their script. I know we're working with other charities as well and we're doing this. And that's all nice and fine. How do we put pressure on them? I think the good thing now is, and I don't know whether we're going to be too late or not, but the good thing now is Elbow Sleeves Bucket is about to call an election.
Yeah.
And anything that's Labor orientated, now don't get me wrong, I'm not picking sides here, Liberal, Labor, they're all lunatics, but if we can pour the acid onto them and go, look, the Labor Party won't even, they've got the money there, but they just want the farmers' stock to die. That's what Labor and the Greens want to happen, and here's the evidence of it. And if we put that out all over the country, so is that the whole country is focusing on South Australia. If anybody's got access to a talkback radio show or something like that, bring it up, mention it on the interstate talkback shows. Literally try and disgrace them into capitulating and just signing the bloody check for the money because it's not their money. That's what I told them. That, she said, oh, we've already done this. I said, you haven't done anything. That money's not yours. That's our money. And we're telling you, pay it, right? So we put out a call the other day, nearly a week ago, a week tomorrow, I think, Linda, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
$2 million privately. If the government's going to not do it, let's do it ourselves. Now, we haven't got anywhere near the $2 million. It'd be nice if we had a couple of millionaires and they all chucked in one each, but we haven't got anywhere near that amount of money. We've got a little bit, and a little bit will help a little bit. The other side of it is that we have to understand what's going on here in South Australia a little bit more. In the Barossa Valley, there's a little town called Lyndoch. It does not have a football team. But South Australia has this thing called gather round football, which all the interstate clubs and that'll come and play, and it's supposedly a big deal. It's probably, I think it's a bit like a round robin thing. So they took the Lyndoch Oval, which hadn't been touched for probably 50 years, and they spent $45 million building a nice new facility for 36 men to kick a bag of wind up and down a bloody paddock and try and find 2 sticks. But don't feed the farmers. For God's sake, don't look after the farmers. And the other side of the farmers' situation is, and I haven't clarified this, but I have heard it 3 times, that Woolworths and Coles lifted the weight limit. So for sheep, they went from, I think it was 35 kilos minimum weight to 50. So when you've got stock that are in, dropping backwards, they're never going to make the 50 kilos. No. And so the farmers won't be able to sell their bloody sheep even into the market because Coles and Woolworths won't be buying them because... So is the South Australian government working in cahoots with Coles and Woolworths to starve the farmers out of the market? There is more going on here. So, yes, look, could we raise $2 million given enough time, but the farmers don't have enough time. What we need is a literal scream and outcry from everybody that's on. Like, you've got a lot of people on here tonight, and all we ask is, look up, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but look up the Premier of South Australia's office and ring him. Look up the Minister for Primary Industries office and ring her and drive them bloody nuts, right? Literally put the pressure on them. And I'm tomorrow, or Big Friday, I'm ringing the governor's office to find out what the outcome of that was. And at their gather around football show, if we do not get the money, we're going to organise, Lindoc's a very rural little town, but there's a lot of grape growers and farmers and that around Lindoc. And we think it'd be a fine idea to perhaps park a few grape harvesters and tractors and trucks and stuff all over the place down there with some nice signage on it, that the $45 million that you're playing on enabled all these South Australian farmers to go broke and the stock die. Enjoy your football. Right? We are going to give them...
Park a couple of John Deeres up back behind the goals, and when they kick the ball through the goals, you just happen to move the tractor over the ball. Just pop.
Yeah. Well, my theory is that I feel like going for a drive with a trailer up to the bloody some of the farms where some of the sheep are dying, and grabbing 20 or 30 dead sheep, bringing them back and chucking them on the steps of Parliament House with a note. Thank you, Premier.
I would bring back the ones that will survive the drive down, but probably not the drive back, and take. No,
mate, I'll bring them down, fly blown and all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's a horrible thing. I've been on properties where they've been drought affected. I've known fly blown sheep. Yeah. It is a truly horrible thing. You've raised. I think I know where the pinch point's going to be in this idea. But, Linda, you and your team have, well, at the end of the day, you have access to a lot of prime movers, and the trailers that you put on at the moment are the ones that they have access to put hay in. But what if these farmers who have no way or where to sell because they're being priced out of the market by Coles and Woolworths and that sort of thing, but the sheep are still very reasonable and, can be sold? The biggest problem that we have with paddock to plate sort of things around this country is that we can't transport it. Well, there are many people in Queensland who've got goods and services, or particularly fruits and other meats and that kind of thing they would love to get south, and vice versa. We have no transport network to do it. Is there a way, maybe we can talk in the future, it might be a pie in the sky sort of stuff, but you have a network of trucks, and I'm not sure that these days, very few of those trucks, I'm sure, are company trucks. They'll all be owner drivers who are fighting every day to get work, and having to compete against the big companies and the Indians who can't back a truck for bloody saving their life. Mine might only be 13 metres long in my bus, but I've got to deal with them too. So I understand, the rigors of doing this, but why couldn't we set up a shuttle run? I mean, the big companies are dumping trailers and swapping trailers on half runs now. is there a way with the network of drivers that you have across the country that we can look at maybe doing something like that? And if they're
Of
shared loads,
course, when we're doing New South Wales, I have plenty of trucks that can just race up to Brizzy and pick up.
yeah, right.
Heaps. Like we're going to New South Wales next week, up to Grafton. I'll have 54 trucks there I can backload.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we would need then is a way to be able to pick up said produce, whether it be in the Lockyer Valley out towards Toowoomba, or if
Yep.
it goes further north up to Gympie or even Bundaberg. There are plenty of businesses, both livestock and fruit and vegetable,
Yep.
that would be very keen, because if they can get it off the trees at the moment, because pickers aren't picking like they used to apparently, but
Yeah.
a lot of this fruit particularly is hanging on the trees and then being ploughed back in.
Yep.
Is there a way that we can
The only
utilize
thing with
that?
fruit, I think that's got to go in a fridge pan, doesn't it, or a
I
taut
think it
liner
would
or
have to,
something?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Whereas mine are all drop decks and flat tops.
Yep, righto. All right. So it's
So
got to be able to be moved like that.
yeah, any freight that can go on them. We've got guys with drop decks with ramps. If vehicles need to be moved, or
Okay.
yeah, all that sort of stuff.
All
I
right.
do quite often get a lot of people call me and just go, look, could you do a backload out of somewhere for us? Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And it's
Linton,
really strange. You can match one of the trucks up with that. 9 times out of 10, they're within 100 k's of home where the drop off is. So, it works a treat.
awesome. Yeah, that's great. Linton wants to donate $300. Wants to know who to send the payment to. Linda,
If he would jump onto our Facebook page, he will see a pinned post up the top. It's called Hayfield Lions Club. If he donates to them, it'll come in through to the hay runners.
absolutely spectacular. And your Facebook page is just the hay runners.
The Aussie hay runners. Yep.
Aussie hay runners. I beg your
Yep.
pardon.
Can I just say something? I just wanted to clear a little thing up about this $2 million, Carl. So basically, when we just quickly threw numbers in there because, as I said before, we were just trying to get hay on trucks to farmers. That was the idea, as quickly as we could. So we thought, right, let's go 2 mil, and that way maximum Ks, whatever we need, right? But we then asked, because we didn't want to seem like we were just trying to, be the people, we asked for 3 million, so that be it, rural aid, rapid relief, any of those guys that wanted to do it, there was still a little bit there. Well, there's $1 million there or whatever. Well, ours might only been 1.3 or 1.5. Do you know what I mean? But it was just a grab at like an air grab, just to try and get enough there for these trucks. So basically, that's why we asked for 2. And it's like, when you, as you say, now when you sit back and do the math, it's not 2 million, but we could certainly get the extra 50 trucks, 30, 40, 50 trucks there, whatever we needed. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. And
So
when you
it
deliver
wasn't-
these, is that likely to get these farming families through whatever period they're at, or is this just a stopgap and we're going to be doing this again in 3 months?
No, I do believe, look, when you were talking before about, sick and dying animals and this and that, 90% of farmers have destocked. So basically, they're all like, now we're talking people that had 25,000 sheep this time 2 years ago. Yep. Last year they had 10,000. They're down to 1,000. Now they're just trying to keep boots on ground here, so that, a lot of them have gone down to 500. They're just trying to keep some breeders, so be it they get rain next year, there's 1,000 feet, on the ground, and they can crawl back. A lot of the stuff that was explained to me was, if they sell everything they've got, there is generations of genetics gone. They've bred these, their life is breeding these animals to be the best that they can be. And if they get rid of them, they won't be able to buy sheep back at the same price when they do go up, and they probably will. And because that's another way of stuffing them over. You know, some of them were telling me they had to sell their sheep for $40. They ended up having to pay the guy that transported them. They owed money. Now that to me is just devastating.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, they've got to keep something to keep themselves going next year. You know, you can't. That one of the when we spoke with Minister Scrivens to try and get this going in the very first place, one of the things was we couldn't help feedlotters, and I agreed with that, because I mean, if you can have 30,000 sheep there and you want someone to bring you a load of hay, well, I think that's a bit unfair. You know, like you can afford to sell 20,000 sheep, but you know, these people have sold everything. They're down to the last whatever it is that's going to keep them going for the next year or two. And the other thing was, they're starting to lamb now, which I'm a cattle farmer, so I don't sort of understand a lot about sheep, but they're starting to lamb now. If these ewes haven't got enough feed, they will just walk away from the lambs. So then they're stuck with either they've got to knock the lambs on the head, or they've got to try and buy milk powder to keep them going. They're just, you know, the poor buggers are belting their heads against the wall.
Yeah. And it's a hard life. I admire farmers so much. It's a great life, but it's a hard life. But you know, I love people who rise to challenges, and I've never known stronger people than the farming community of Australia. I mean, I didn't grow up on the land so much. I was a townie, but my uncle had a dairy farm. Our family were involved in the dairy farm, spud farm. I carted hay as a kid for years, making pocket money out of it every summer, and it's a very happy part of my existence. But
beautiful memories,
yeah, beautiful. But I've also got the memories of having to shoot 250 sheep because they couldn't be fed anymore, and they were starving. But that was on a different property up in New South Wales. But that's what's
happening now. That's basically what's happening, and it's going to get worse. They are going to start just, you know.
Yeah.
I think Tim put a photo up on his thing the other day of the sheep standing in the paddock. That's exactly what they look like. Their hips are all drawn in. They're, you know, scrunched up because they've got no energy, you know, and the farmers are doing what they call confinement feeding. So basically they're just keeping them all in a paddock, so they're not walking around. They're not using up energy. Like, by God, what sort of a person... And this is very difficult for me to understand, but what sort of a person or people live in the city, have the means to help these people, can see what's going on and won't help? Yet I said to that Minister Scrivens, I said, the Mexicans, you know, us Victorians, we're willing to spend our money that, you know, mainly Victorians had given to get hay for your New South Wales farmers. We're not asking for you to pay for the hay. We are happy to do that. And you can't put fuel in the tanks to give someone a little bit of relief for a few months until the rain comes. Nothing. Nada.
Michelle Bradley Smith is wondering, you are from Hayfield in Victoria. That would be, she's just trying to, I think, locate you so she can figure out how to contact you later. So at least I hope that's the case, Michelle. There's a lot of people wanting to help. So through the Facebook page, Aussie Hay Runners, and you can connect through there. Tim, is it going to help if me or anybody outside of South Australia sends a letter of complaint or makes a phone call to the minister in South Australia?
Well, I think it doesn't matter, I think, where we come from. Humanity is humanity. And look, at the end of the day, this is our fellow man. There's an imaginary border, a line on a piece of paper that says you're in one part of the country and I'm in another. And I say, no, we are all Australians. Doesn't matter what part we claim to be in. And as decent people, if we do not voice our concern at the way that I will call them scorpions, are behaving, right? And you all remember the story of the scorpion, don't you?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Right. So we'll call them scorpions. And if we don't ring them up and say, hey, you don't have to say where you're from. You just say, hey, why not pay the hay runners, give them the money for the fuel, set their phone on fire. Do the same with the Premier's office. Do the same with 5AA. They won't let you on. Hell, I tried to ring again today, and normally I can get onto 5AA in a heartbeat. I don't even have to wait in the queue. They didn't even answer my call today. So, let's just set fire to their phones, because they have to know that decent people in this country expect decency. We expect decency out of those who are supposedly there to act on our behalf.
And it is the public money they hold on to.
Oh, yeah, it's not theirs. It's not their money. And look, truly, I'm the same as Linda. I cannot comprehend why the hell that some highly paid bureaucrat from down there, she's the ministers from down the southeast from Mount Gambier, like we said, they wouldn't have never seen a brown blade of grass down there. But what right does she think she has to play God with the people and the animals of the north?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just show such callous disregard. That plays into something else I'm working on that I'll talk about in coming weeks probably. But we as a people have seemed to been dumbed down to the realities or to the distresses in other people's lives with an I don't care, I can't be bothered, I'm moving on, looking after me kind of an attitude. So however, I've found the soft spot for most of certainly most of the people that I'm around are animals. And I mean, it's a horrible thing to show a starving cow or calf. It's a horrible thing to show starving fly-blown sheep. The reality of it is farmers are living with that every day in South Australia at the moment, and we need to put as much pressure as we can onto the government to do the right bloody thing again. I'm not sure that there's any help. I guess the question that arises for me for you, Linda, is and something that Tim alluded to when he contacted the government. We've got to help other people other than the hay runners who can bring 4, 5, 6, 8 trucks, whatever that is. Is this now a business that, people who used to maybe drive in your crew have gone, I can go out and do this too. And now you seem to be competing for funding rather than, just walking in and saying, hey, listen, we're the original, the best, the imitators shite. There are these new operators coming into this area. Is this a problem for you?
No, because look, we put all our money into buying good hay. My guys are all volunteers that, give their time to get out there and do it. So, I sort of think if there's other people out there wanting to do it, that is fantastic. Like we reached out to another group to work with us on this because it's such a huge area of South Australia that needs to be done. And they wouldn't work with us, which was a bit of a shame actually, because my boys would go and, take their load to Farmer Tim, and as they're driving out the driveway, this other group are driving in with a B double load, and I it was a real shame because at the end of the day that could have gone to another farmer. Yeah. So no, we don't think we're the biggest and the best. It's just that we've got the most awesome crew of people from all over New South Wales and Victoria. That majority of them are farmers themselves, but we do have, we have people from demolition and plumbers, builders, carpenters, all just getting their
Earth
trucks and
movers. I'll take the excavator off the flatbed for a week, and I'll go and do this run.
Yep.
That kind of thing. This is what I saw. I saw a comment from, I think, a troll earlier about, what are you all going to do? You all going to drive the trucks? Well, as it turns out, I can drive a heavy rigid vehicle, so I'm not going to be driving anything that's articulated, but you can put me in a truck that I suppose will carry, I'm guessing, 5 or 6 of those big round bales, and I'll happily tag along the end of all the B doubles that are dragging a lot more. So
what we'll do with you, Carl, we'll stick you, we'll get you to Lorkie Mills, and you can go and load up those pallets, and you can go and do some individual farm drops.
Awesome. I don't think the bus will make that drive. You'll have to stick me in something a little more suitable.
We'll get you something.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, no, I'm right up for it. Well, once again, folks, if you can help, then, certainly money is always welcome, both for the Aussie Hay Runners and for the Voice of Freedom. But pressure is what's required on the South Australian government. And as Tim said, if we can all just pick up the phone and start pushing the buttons, calling the radio stations, because once they do recognise your number and they program your name into it these days, so that they can pick up the phone and say, "Oh, hello, Tim. What do you want to say?" "Oh, yeah, I'll put you straight on." But they can just as easily say, "Oh, there's Tim. No, we're not going to talk about that today." And it pays to have 4 or 5 different phones and or friends, and it does confuse the producers a little bit. But tell them you get hurt feelings because you know that they know you're calling and you're being ignored. It's okay. They just have to pick up and say, "Look, Tim, not today," and they'll start feeling bad and they'll talk to you again. Well, most of them.
That's the theory.
Linda, if I can help in any way, shape or form, will you please just reach out? And certainly if I get anybody who contacts me through the website or through my email, I'll pass them on to you directly so that you can sort all that out. And love to be part of it. If we can get this run happening, then I'll love to come down and be part of it. So
we'd love to have you there with us, Carl.
No worries at all. Thanks for joining us tonight, Linda. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're most welcome.
No, great stuff. Linda from Aussie Hay Runners. And Tim, thank you for coming tonight. I am going to throw back to the last time you were on the show. Vince organised a picture of this magnificent machine. And it's more than I've been able to do, and I've got it sitting 4 feet from me. So all wired in and working. But how goes life with the life of hydrogen production for large engine vehicles?
Oh, mate, yes, we have a couple of those on the shelf waiting to go out the door. They're for the bigger trucks, for the bigger engines. Anything over 45, 50 litres per 100 Ks needs one of those.
Right.
And, it's really interesting because in South Australia, they've just shut down this massive big idea they had of producing green hydrogen.
I know. But now, can I share with people that you did have some discussions with? Was it that company in particular, or another?
No, it was a different company.
Right.
But it just briefly, I won't bog up the night for people, but the South Australian government put together a hydrogen system down south near where the old Mitsubishi plant used to be at Lonsdale. And they had this big conference. I think it was $1,200 a ticket if you wanted to go, but on the Friday it was free for the public to come in and listen to all the whiz-bangery and see some of the stuff they were doing. And they had a hydrogen barbecue there. They had a couple of hydrogen cars there, and you couldn't go anywhere in them, but they were there. And Corinne said to me, she said, "You can go, but whatever you do, shut up. Do not speak." And anyway, my mate Ken and I, we went. And anyhow, there was a lady there from the Jet Propulsion Lab in California. There was the professors from the Adelaide University. There was scientists there from the gas company that was going to be running all this. And people in the audience could ask questions. And somebody asked the question, how much does it cost per litre of hydrogen? Because what they're doing is they're putting the hydrogen into the natural gas flow to extend the value of the natural gas, to give more bang for your buck, so to speak, right?
Right. Yep.
Anyway, the professor at the university said, "Oh, well, look, that's a very difficult question to answer because it depends on what sort of electricity we get and all the rest of the stuff." And anyway, I sat there. I thought, righto. And well, then, how much electricity? Somebody asked, how much electricity does it take to produce a litre of hydrogen? Well, some other snoozer got up, and that was a very difficult question to answer also because blah, 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 and they weren't really sure. And these questions were going on and on and on. And finally, I couldn't help myself. I put my hand up. And when they bring the mic over and it's your turn to speak, you have to say who you are and where you're from. And so I said, well, my name's Tim Dwyer from H2 Fuel Save here in South Australia. I said, it's not necessarily a question I have for anybody on the panel. Perhaps I may be able to answer some of the questions that have been asked. And I went through the amount of energy it takes to produce a litre of hydrogen, right down to the milliamp. Then I went through the costing of, depending on where you get your electricity from, but let's say you're pulling it out of coal-fired power stations and you're taking the 240 volt and you're going to turn that down to DC current, and then you're going to multiply it by this. And the woman from the Jet Propulsion Lab at Caltech, she said, excuse me. She said, excuse me. She said, you have just rattled these figures off the top of your head. And she said, you are correct. I said, I know I am. Thank you. And she said, but my question is, you said you have a hydrogen business here in South Australia. You have all these answers. Why is it you're not up here on the panel of experts? I said, oh, you'd have to ask the South Australian government that question, right? But it's really interesting, Carl, because they're making hydrogen out of AC current, and it's very inefficient. You got to turn it down to DC current, and the way they're doing it is, how do I put this? They're not to save the problem of scrubbing the gas, meaning to clean the gas afterwards. They're not using an efficient electrolyzer in the creation of the hydrogen, because they don't want to have to scrub the electrolytes out of it, right? And so it takes about 10 times more energy to create it, and it creates a shit ton more heat than the way we do it. We don't create much heat. And
so is that electrolyzer a waste product, for the want of a better term?
No, it's not actually, because once you've scrubbed it, you can tip it out onto the garden and it adds additional pH to your garden.
Oh, right. Don't go away giving any secrets.
No, mate. So anyway, yeah, look, the big ones are for the trucks, the big generators and stuff like that. So, yeah, and we did a bigger one than that one. We did a triple stack one, three of the, like, instead of 2 canisters, 3 big canisters, and that went on a truck up in the Pilbara that was pulling 400 ton.
Wow.
So, yeah. But anyway.
Have you ever had any experience or thoughts about bunker oil and ships?
Well, yeah, we did. We tried to talk to some people down in Victoria last year. No, early this year, perhaps. Might have been last year. And that was their thing, and we spent quite a few hours with them. And I get the funny feeling they were searching for knowledge, not for products.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. But look, ships with bunker oil, They are bunker oil's the most inefficient bloody form of fuel out there.
Yeah.
Add hydrogen to it, and oh my goodness, it's very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
So anyway, there we go, mate. Hydrogen's good.
Hydrogen is a good thing, mate. Thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for hooking me up with Linda in the purely professional sense, because I know there'll be people snickering at that. And please give my very best to your absolutely magnificent other half, Corinne. And
I certainly will, sir.
soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for being on, and blessings to everybody. And look, truly, even $5 would make a difference. It really would.
Kang wants to grab a copy of the Good Red Book. How can people get a hold of you? You can h2@vofhq.com. We'll go straight to
shoot me an email there, and we've got them in stock, so easy peasy.
Yep. Ads are saying the fuel companies don't like you. I think that's a given. All right, mate. I'll let you go. I know you've probably got dinner waiting for you, and Corinne is a fabulous cook. I'm told, because
you're told. Yes.
Experience it yet, but we'll get there. All right, love your work, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Carl.
Oh, cut him off a bit quick. But all right, folks, we'll call it quits for tonight. It's been an interesting show, particularly for folks living in South Australia. But don't think this kind of bastardry isn't going to happen in your state, or hasn't already happened. Doesn't happen every time there is some sort of a crisis with our weather. And, of course, we know they engineer the weather. Why would they bother trying to fix a drought if they've engineered the bloody thing? They're trying to get people off the land. They're trying to make the banks able to reclaim those properties. We need to fight that at every possible step. We need to support our farmers at every possible step. If we can't do that, then we risk our entire survival. Our entire food chain rests with the people that know how to grow it and produce it and market it, and in this case, transport it. There's so many different facets that of this whole solution that we already hold. The parts of the jigsaw are all here. We just have to put them together. And I think tonight we might have found a couple of parts in the jigsaw. We've just got to find the right place to put them. Now, if you can help, please reach out and hassle the South Australian Minister and push hard for their involvement in getting some money to the hay runners to get that desperately needed food across to the stock in South Australia. Embarrass these bastards, embarrass them, because they should be ashamed to say they are representatives of us, the people, we the people, when they would treat we the people, particularly the important ones like the farmers, with such disdain. Or almost makes you wish they'd wander out into the middle of the road full of dickheads driving on it, don't you think?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!